I'm just quite interested by your defense of American values. Do you not think there's like an extent of arrogance about your suggestion like that America has so much better values than the rest of the world? Like you've listed lots of like ways they're better. You yourself acknowledge that it's generosity that allows immigrants to come to America. What right do you think you necessarily have to tell other cultures that your supposed values that allow like Hillary to be like essentially like her whole campaign devalued on account of her being a woman? Like you can say what you want that they didn't happen, the hate crimes, but people are huge amounts of like racism in your police force, in your like systematically across the country. Do you really think these are like better values than the rest of the world, that you can't learn anything from immigrants?
No, I don't think, yes, we can learn some things from immigrants, but the question, as I understand it, is why do you want to spread your values to the rest of the world? Look, that's fine. That's fine, okay? If they don't want them, I'm really fine. I was America first before Trump was America first. I really just want to take care of our own country. But we are bringing in values that are demonstrably at odds and with a majority of Americans, the treatment of women and children, the honor killings, the clitorectomies, the ripping off of government programs. I mean, we're dealing with crimes that our police force, we have no immunity to it. We're not used to this kind of thing. It's manifestly obvious that certain different ethnic groups excel and different cultures excel at different kinds of crimes. We're used to, for one thing, we're used to criminals being dumb, which has been a great advantage. You know, they kill their spouses for $10,000 of insurance money and leave their DNA all over the place. No, now we're getting criminals who have high IQs. They come from cultures where it's not embarrassing to be a criminal. It's great. It's cool. You ripped off the government. I mean, our government programs are like a Disneyland for immigrants. One of the things the Iraqi and the Mexican woman who honor killed their daughter for dating a black kid, one of the things he was on the tape saying was, oh, I love America. It's so great. I can game all these welfare programs. I mean, that goes into the idea of a country being a family and caring about one another. It's one thing when we are paying in enormous taxes in order to take care of, you know, somebody else's kid who's born without a liver or born with spina bifida. Okay, you know, this is what we're agreeing to. We're all Americans. We're in this together. But when we're bringing in immigrants, not only with very different values, but who need liver transplants, and they're taking the liver transplants that was kind of for our own people. You take care of your people, we take care of our people. And I'd also say, since this is the last question, just let me expand and say one more thing. I mean, the left loves to talk about diversity. I mean, I think I'm the person who truly loves diversity. I want to go to England. No, you want us to be all one blend and look the same and there's no difference. I want to come to England and meet people named, you know, Nigel and Simon and Oliver, and you know, I want to hear your prissy little accents, and I want to go to Germany, and I want the streets to be really clean and the trains to run on time, and go to the Netherlands, and I can see their clogs and their tulips, and they have their own little weird, you know, the stuff we eat. I just think cultures should be preserved, and it's easier to preserve cultures if they stay in their own countries. That's the true diversity.
It didn't miss Nikki's years working for pretty much every left-wing crackpot in America. So those are Mickey's bona fides. And I don't know about Anne's, but I'm going to start. The context here is that the three of us are actually friends, and Mickey and Anne are actually friends, even though we disagree on a lot of things. So use this as a model for the future. But I'm going to start by maybe stirring up some stuff. Mickey, if a couple of years ago you had written a book entitled "In Trump We Trust." Would you just feel like a total idiot right now?
I'd be pretty disappointed. I might be even tweeting nasty things about our president. He hasn't become a fascist. I mean, it seemed like the entire New York intellectual elite was decided that Trump was Hitler. He hasn't. He's been the opposite. He can't even build 1 mile of his wall. He's been completely feckless. He made one fatal mistake, which is he cast his lot with Paul Ryan and said, okay, Ryan, we'll do your tax cuts and then we'll get to my agenda. Now he's done Ryan's tax cuts, and gee, Ryan doesn't want to do his agenda. So in the past omnibus, basically Ryan didn't put up a fight and Trump didn't get anything he wanted on immigration. So that's crushingly depressing, and I think it will, it's scrambling to figure out ways he can come back, and he's scrambling. If you read the papers this morning, he's followed Ann's advice that he could build the wall with the military. I'm not sure that's going to go anywhere, but the mix of things I would expect. Maybe a little more of a failure on the immigration front.
And if you had written a book called Confronts and Trust 2 years ago, how would you feel today?
I regret nothing. I would do the exact same thing. I would write the exact same book with the exact same title. I mean,
To be fair, you say that about everything all the time.
No, there are some things I regret.
Okay.
We'll get back to that in another question, things and regrets. We had 16 lunatics being chased by men with nets running for president, and Donald Trump. So, of course, I had to be held to the medal for Donald Trump. I've been waiting 30 years for someone to say all these things. As both of you know, we Trump supporters, at least I and my friends, went into this completely clear-eyed. I knew he was a shallow, lazy ignoramus, and I didn't care. He's saying what I wanted somebody to say, and you know what I'm disappointed in him for is doing everything Jeb exclamation point and Rubio were promising to do. So, I mean, I still support him. I just feel like we're getting, it's the same as is happening in England with Brexit. We vote and we vote and we vote, and we can never get what we're voting for.
All right, Mickey, you brought some visual aids just to make sure that this evening is excruciating for the audience.
They're excruciating visual aids.
Yeah, they are. That's why I've seen them already. Spoiler alert. If you're past that first row, you won't be able to see them. Let me ask you, you have predicted, so is Ann, and I'll turn back to Ann in a minute. I'm doing my best talking, by the way.
Yeah, very good.
I should put it a little bit. You have said immigration is the most important issue.
Right.
You have been ringing, alone on your side, I mean, whatever your side is these days, alone you've been saying, unless we take care of our immigration policy and address it is highly likely that we will not do those things that you wanted us to do.
Illegal immigration has gone down under Trump.
Well, it went down under Obama, too.
No,
Not
it
really.
surged toward the end. So it was when the high was under Bush and Clinton, and it's gone down since then. But the Trump effect is such that people were discouraged from coming illegally. That's starting to go back up as people realize Trump's a paper tiger, and the economy is very hot. People come for jobs, so we expect there to be a surge in illegal immigration. But I guess I can explain why I care about immigration.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
Why you care about it, and then why, if you're going to ring the alarm bell, as you have, I mean, Ann is, I think, running louder, but you will just start small. If you're going to ring the alarm bell and it's not going to happen, how much trouble are you in?
I wrote a book at the start of the Clinton administration called "The End of Equality," which basically says we have capitalism. Capitalism creates inequalities. We really shouldn't care about how rich. What we really should care about is social equality, which is we are equal in the eyes of each other. We're treated as equals. We consider ourselves equal no matter how much money we have. And that sort of should be the goal of liberals. And there was a sort of Clintonian consensus that That's great. We're going to deregulate. We're going to make work pay. It'll all work out. We'll have free trade. We'll have some immigration. But then something happened. And the main thing that happened is in one of my fabulous charts. This is which I guess you won't be able to see, but I'll describe it to you. Hourly wages starting from an equal. You'll see people with advanced degrees went up. People with just college degrees went up a bit. Some college, high school sort of flat. But people who dropped out of high school plummeted, went down. And I don't think you can have a socially equal society if the people who don't have sort of drop out the bottom of the economy.
What on earth does that
it's
have to
even
do
worse because
what on earth does that
this is
have to
a
do with
meritocratic distinction.
Explain what that has to do with immigration.
Immigrants are largely unskilled, and they bid down the wages of people who have.
But I could
few skills.
I could map a graph of worker productivity and worker efficiency over that would also explain that. Precisely those, absolutely, precisely those.
There are three forces pushing down the wages at the bottom. One is trade, and trade had a huge impact, and Trump says he's going to do something about it. One is immigration, which has maybe less of an impact than trade, but it's something we can do something about right now. And the third is technology, robots, and nobody has any answer for that. So Trump was at least addressing two of the three factors.
But you understand the counter-argument to that fantasy economics you just presented. Worker productivity isn't just about robots. It's about all sorts of, like, anybody here use an ATM? Anybody here use any automated service? Has been going on since the early 70s, since the 50s, really. So how do you explain that? Why is that just immigration?
I don't buy that argument.
You don't?
No, I mean, this is the argument Mickey always makes to me, that the machines are going to take over and they're going to kill us. Meanwhile, my Roomba can't even, clean the floor without getting stuck on the couch, so I'm not worried about them killing us yet. But since the beginning of humankind, man has created wheels and tools, and no, it just frees up time for us to do other things. It's never been the case what he shows in his charts. And I would also add, what state in the union has the worst income inequality? California, where immigration is most advanced. We are bringing in immigrants that are good for the very rich. They don't live in their neighborhoods. They don't fill up their schools or their hospital emergency rooms. And oh boy, you should see how clean Juanita gets the bathtub. You can eat off it after she's done. So it's all good. No, I'm sorry. The people who are bringing in Juanita, the maid, and underpaying her are the racists. You are a moron. Down, you're very stupid. You can't argue with stupid people. You're driving down the wages of the people we ought to be caring the most about, and you have the rich walking around like they're Martin Luther King. What do they want? They want cheap labor. They want to make more money, and that's why, and I think the state with the least income inequality is Utah. Coming in to do the low-wage work, you have poor people getting poorer and poorer.
You buy that?
Yes, I mean there's a big debate on the effect immigration has on wages. The lower bound is 3%. The upper bound is maybe 10, 12%. It's not a big range, but the arrow points in the wrong direction. They're hurting low-wage workers. So the Democrats' platform is, we will only fuck you 3%. Okay? That's not, and Trump's platform is, we will unfuck you that 3%. So Trump won the election. I don't think you can have a socially equal society if this chart keeps going down. It's also true that there's an effect. Anne writes about in her book. Professor Putnam notes that more diverse societies tend to have less trust. They also tend to have less social welfare spending. You also cannot have a big welfare state if you invite the whole world. Those of you who support the universal basic income and open borders need to think about that. You can't invite the whole world here and then say, we're going to give you a basic income. So those are three good reasons, if you are a Democrat, to want to control immigration. And it's just maddening I got into this debate because my previous cause was welfare reform, and the same BS you heard from people who oppose welfare reform are the same sort of thing you hear in the immigration debate. For example, people said people would never cross state lines for higher welfare benefits. That's a right-wing myth. Well, then they went to Wisconsin and realized, Minnesota, and realized that, that people were coming from Chicago to Wisconsin for higher welfare benefits. Of course people cross welfare lines for higher benefits. Similarly, they said, oh, amnesty will never encourage more people to come. Well, that's insane. We amnestied 3 million people in 1986. We got 11 million new illegals. So of course amnesty encourages. People are human. If you give amnesty to one generation, the people who are still back in the home country will say, well, see, the previous people got in, I'll go too. It's just common sense, and it's common sense that's completely ignored by, unfortunately, my fellow Democrats.
And what's the difference between illegal immigration and immigration?
Not much these days. There are even lower wage workers, the illegals coming in, I mean, in terms of the effect on society, and it's always driven me crazy that my party, Republicans, they make a really big point of saying, oh, we're only talking about illegal, only talking about illegal. Well, I don't know, when legal immigrants are low wage and poor and consuming massive amounts of government welfare, it has the exact same wage depressing effect. It has the exact same effect on communities. A lot of the legal immigrants coming in now are finishing, as the federal judge wrote, Judge Cannon in the Dreamer case, he said they're just completing the cycle of the cartel. We're shipping them in, and then you get the anchor babies. So you now have American citizen members of these drug cartels. The drug issue, which Trump, sort of kicking and screaming, did finally start bringing up during the campaign, and to great effect in New Hampshire. Huge, huge heroin problem. I would recommend you read Sam Quinones' book, Dreamland. He was an LA Times reporter, very, very good reporter. I don't know if you've read it. It's a fantastic book. You won't be able to put it down, but it's all about the heroin, the opioid crisis. And as he documents, I think beyond dispute, the heroin problem is a problem of having an open border. It is all the Mexican cartels right now. Well, that isn't affecting the rich. That isn't affecting Park Avenue or Nob Hill or Beverly Hills or wherever you live, Rob. Not affecting you. You're getting, oh my gosh, you've got to be smarter.
And you've got to be less racist. You are an immigrant too once. Your family were immigrants too. Just because you're white doesn't make you better. Be less racist. The United States shipped opium from...
Yes, you have not decided.
Let me ask you this.
This is all a problem of the border being wide open, and it isn't Nob Hill, it isn't Park Avenue. It's going to these communities throughout America. I mean, the number of people dying every year from heroin overdoses and fentanyl overdoses every year is more than died in the entire course of the Vietnam War. I mean, this is an attack on our society, and to have Donald Trump, who ran on one set of issues, decide to go to Mar-a-Lago rather than veto the spending bill, yeah, it's a little disappointing.
Mickey, what's the difference between illegal immigration and
There's no difference as far as wages goes, but if you're going to control immigration, you have to say this immigration beyond this certain level, which we set democratically, is illegal. So you have to be able to enforce the laws against people who come here illegally, otherwise you have no control over the law. The depressing thing is, there are 4 or 5 things you got to do to control it. One is, I'm all for the wall. I have to buck up people in the Trump administration sometimes who have their own doubts about the wall. I think walls work everywhere they've been tried. They work in Israel. They're building a huge one in Saudi Arabia. There's no reason to think walls won't work. You have to do something to control people who overstay their visas, which is now possible with computers. You have to have some computerized check of people who go to work so the employer can see if they are legal and not hire them if they're illegal. None of that stuff happened in the budget. Trump got shut out. It's like he played a whole basketball game and didn't score a field goal. It will be studied in political science courses. How could somebody blow it this big? And so none of the things you have to do to make illegal immigration illegal happened, and that's why illegal immigration is important. If you're going to get control, you have to have some law.
All right, so you have a window, a month, political window, say. What's your dream immigration policy in the United States?
Everything Trump campaigned on, build a wall, and isn't that magnificent book, Adios America? Build a wall. I think we need an immigration moratorium to dust off the books, assimilate the immigrants already here, get their wages up. Rather than, right now we're doing the sorcerer's apprentice thing. We're bringing in another 2 million every year while trying to assimilate the ones who came in the year before and the year before and the year before. I think it's worth pointing out the people this hurts the most, and it's been pointed out in study after study after study, are African Americans and Hispanic Americans, the ones who came in last year and the year before that and the year before that. Sorry, you poor voiceless Americans. Nancy Pelosi wants to pay her maid even less. Immigration moratorium, wall, and deport illegals. As Trump said during the campaign, we're a country or we're not. And to be we're the greatest country in the world. Try calling up any other country in the world, even one Trump would call a shithole. Call up their embassy and ask them. Say, I'd like to come live in your country. I don't speak the language and I don't have any skills. I have no money to bring. But I hear your country doesn't get that cold and I like the food. If I come in with my boyfriend and we can't make it, would you guys mind cutting us a check once a month? They'd say, no, not so fast, Skippy. Any country would say that. Whereas our immigration policy, the greatest country in the world, is anyone who lives within walking distance. That's insane. We ought to be using immigration policy to get our average up. They ought to be smarter than us, better looking than us, better dancers, better athletes. We want to raise our average. It's this crazy idea that it's not fair to use our immigration policy, just another immigration or government policy. It's just another government policy. Why would you have any government policy that does not help the people already here? It would be, oh no, it's not fair to skim the rest of the world and just take the best of the rest of the world. It's not fair that Scarlett Johansson dates, good-looking guys with money. She should be forced to date unemployed losers. She should be forced into a lottery for who she dates.
You might win that lottery, Nikki, by the way. Before we go on.
So I have a chance.
Before we go yeah, you got a chance. She's going to watch this, and the charts are going to seal the deal. What about what Ann said? You sign on to all that?
Actually, no.
It doesn't sound very
This
former Democrat.
It's opened up. We actually have some differences on immigration. I do think we want to remain a country that's open to immigration. I think we also want to remain a country that's open to refugees. The demonstrations after Trump's travel pause I thought, sort of proved that people do not like the idea that we are no longer a haven for refugees. It doesn't mean we have to take a lot of them. We take more than anybody else in the world. Obama took 80,000. Trump's going to take 40,000. Big deal. We still take a lot of refugees. And that brings to my second chart, which is what happened to immigration over the course of recent history. We had a lot of immigrants in the 18th century. Then we cracked down in the early, in the 19th century. We had a crackdown in the early 20th century, and immigration plummeted. There was to a low point until Teddy Kennedy's law in 1965 opened the floodgates, and immigration went back up. What happened during this period?
To be fair, just for those of you in rows 3 and 4 and beyond, the chart that Nikki has drawn, and you did a great job. It's very neat and nice chart. Ends in 2060. So there's
but it's
it's just so we understand that that's present day where your index.
Right. Okay.
Not.
It's good. The point is, during this period of low immigration,
You can see the future now.
I'm glad you put it. I've never noticed that before. Thank you. During this period of low immigration, even liberals will say that's when assimilation did its work. These masses had already come here. And during this period, Italians, Poles, Jews, all sorts of people, sort of, in World War II obviously helped, became melded into Americans. People didn't think of themselves as Italians